video games are for nerds. But that doesn't mean we can't talk about them. That's why you're listening to The Week in Gaming, the only gaming podcast that breaks down the last 7 days and tears games apart from the inside. Ugh. So forget your worries, open your ears, and join Simon Miller and a co-host for the entertainment chatter you need. Also, screw Dark Souls.
Hello and happy 2019 and welcome to the first Week in Gaming podcast of 2019. My name is Simon Miller and I just want to thank you very much for joining me on this little soiree that we do indeed call a video game podcast. I'm going to push it hard this year as well. So make sure you tell a friend, tell two friends, they can tell two friends and so on and so forth. And before long, we'll have the biggest audience of all time. If this is the first time you have tuned in, I do appreciate it. And you're also about to learn that I do have a co-host. His name is Sam Bishop. He's on the line right now. Sam, how are you doing today? How's your 2019? How's your new year?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's but that it feels a bit of the same. I guess we were talking about this off mic, but it's just like just sort of woke up and it's like this is still life. So
it's true. Like, the older you get, actually, to be honest, even when I was younger, I was a bit like, man, I don't really care about New Year's Eve. It doesn't mean going into the year 2000 was pretty good, but otherwise it's like I don't really care. So the older I've got now, I'm especially like, man, I don't need to worry about New Year anymore. As I told you, not ashamed to say I was in bed, but actually I told you a lie. I tried to go to bed before midnight, but as I learned, everyone around me where I live, I've never heard. If I had bought fireworks this year, I would have been like, what was the point on that? Literally, no matter which direction I looked out my window, there was fireworks. So I just got a free fireworks display for no reason. It was quite good, actually, to be honest. You know, if I can't sleep, I may as well stay up and watch somebody else's fireworks.
Yeah, it's like free theft, but without any of the consequences.
Exactly that. So, if you didn't check out the last episode, and please do, Sam and I ran through our 10 best games each, and incredibly, there was no repeats whatsoever. We assumed there would be. I think we were quite smart about how we did it, but we thought we were going to do that again. There's no video game news until next week, and then we'll start building to Resident Evil, the remake, Resident Evil 2 remake. I got a cool story about that, which I can't talk about yet, but I will talk about when we can. It's nothing to do with the game. It's just, you'll see, but it's a fun story that I found out about. But yeah, we thought we'd do it again with games coming out over the current year, because I always know, I like to have a list of things to look forward to when it comes to games. And what I usually do is I go to, one of the websites, GameSpot, IGN, blah, blah, blah. And usually there's always one that does a list better than everybody else. And I will continue to go that throughout the rest of the year. So I thought it'd be a really good idea. Yeah, we're just going to go through it. We're going to pick one. We're going to back and forth. If we come up with a duplicate, we'll try and figure out what it is about that game that makes it so special. So essentially, these are the 20 games you need to look out for in 2019. You're very welcome. We are providing a service. Sam, do you want to start or you want me to start? It's your call.
I can't remember who started last time, but you could just start because otherwise...
Yeah. I'll start. I like to say as well, these are in no order in terms of release date. I know that's annoying, but release dates change all the time, and what makes sense now may not make sense in a few months. So they're just random. They're absolutely random. They're just games you want to look out for. Now, mine again. I said to Sam, not all of the ones I have chosen are games that I'm necessarily looking forward to. Or there are games I'm looking forward to. There are games that I'm intrigued about, and there are games that I think are not necessarily make or break for the developer in question, but need to have some kind of an impact, which is why my first game on my list is Anthem. Now, I'm a big BioWare... let me rephrase that. I was a big BioWare fan. They haven't really done anything that I've liked for quite some time, but it would be remiss of me to pretend like they're not a big developer. Of course they are. If you actually go through their hits outweigh their misses by an incredible ratio. They are a top-level developer. It's why EA spent so much money of them all those years ago. I know Sam disagrees with me with this, but obviously the Dragon Age Inquisition didn't really... it doesn't really matter. It didn't hit with me because it's done well. And like I say, Sam has found it all these years afterwards, and he's still enjoying it too. But I think the main one is that Mass Effect Andromeda really missed the mark. It's probably killed that franchise to a certain extent. It's a franchise that probably should have ended anyway, but that's certainly drawn a line under it. And to me, BioWare right now feel like a company that need a new game. They need a new title they can put into a new franchise that they can stamp their name on and say, look, it's 2019. We're making a real big push for the Xbox One, the PlayStation 4, the PC, whatever, to say, look, we haven't gone anywhere. We know what we're doing. And that is Anthem to me. And the reason I know they released some information about it this week. It was nothing major. I know you can kind of figure out what it is, but if someone sat me down and said, Simon, name me 10 facts about Anthem, I would say, and again, I'm just talking about yes, you can always argue, Simon, you should do more research. But I'm talking about as a casual video game fan. You know, right now, if you ask me about, I can't even think what's big this year, but some games I would just know. If you tell me what is Anthem about, I go, well, I think it's a third-person shooter which you can do in co-op, and there's some kind of rockets. That's it.
And at the end of the day, it's their job to get that message across to you, right?
Exactly.
It's not your responsibility to look at what their game is about. You know, their message isn't clear. That's also on them. Exactly,
and that's all I know. All I know is, like I say, third-person shooting, rockets, meh. I need more than that, and there should be more than that. And I totally agree with you. I do think it's on a developer to get the message out there. So I wanted to surprise me. I wanted to be the game that, you know, gets good scores everywhere, and yeah, just brings me back into BioWare's line of thinking. Because right now I don't feel like I'm part of that, and that kind of sucks.
Yeah, this is actually on my list as well. That's number 3 for me.
Oh, really? Well, there you go. There we go.
Yeah, I was sort of like, because I'm not a big BioWare player, I played Mass Effect 1. And then I was like, okay, cool, whatever. You know, I'm not a huge fan. But as we know, played Dragon Age. Put it on the list last week. Someone was very angry that I did that. I'm very sorry to upset you. But yeah, obviously played Dragon Age right now and I'm loving it. So that sort of catapulted Anthem into my interest. From what I've seen, it looks a bit Destiny-ish, which is not for me. But, you know, this is an important game for BioWare, like you're saying. I can't imagine them throwing away all their storytelling pedigree just to appeal to the, you know, shared world Destiny-esque players. So it's more like I'm very optimistic about it, because I don't think from what I've seen there's anything concrete that makes me be like, this looks amazing. It looks good, and I think BioEdge has the talent to pull it through, really. Yeah,
and that thing you hit the nail on the head there. I know what they can do. I just need to see it again, not because they've been making, but I do think Andromeda was a bad game. I'm not going to lie. I think it was a bad video game. But I know there's still stuff in there that I'm going to enjoy, and I hope this is the game that drags me back in. And if it doesn't, of course, it doesn't matter. Like, who am I? Just one person on a massive rock that's hurtling into space. But I can only look at the world from my vantage point, and I want to enjoy a BioWare game. I mean, hopefully, I don't know this again about stuff we've talked about, but hopefully, you know, there's going to be branching storylines and twists and turns, because that's what I think they do so well. The narrative portion of their games is the reason I love them so much. And if you can, you know, weave it into a game that, by all intents and purposes, looks a bit stereotypical video gamey, that would excite me. And that's why, again, it's not necessarily a game I'm looking forward to, but it's one I'm hoping proves me wrong.
Yeah, I'm optimistic about that one. Maybe against my better judgment, if you know what I mean. Like, I want it to be amazing.
Exactly, yeah. It's got a lot of goodwill from me for no apparent reason whatsoever. But yeah, we got Anthem. We managed to get through 20 games. I'm still going to call it 20 games. We managed to get through 20 games of 2018. The first one, we have both hit a wall. But you go, man. What is your number 10?
Number 10 for me is Code Vein.
I looked at this, but I don't know much about it, so I'll just let you to wax lyrical.
So it's I hate the term Souls-like, but I think I don't know what else describes it, because when you say Souls-like, you immediately know what you're getting. It's like really stylized, sleek, anime-ish, like vampires in a modern sort of post-apocalyptic setting. It's really cool. There's a load of it's like the same sort of themes of like blood, with like Bloodborne and stuff, but obviously in a different setting. It looks really, really good. Play a little bit of it, and yeah, it's just it might not be for me right now. I might play it a little bit before I get absolutely just frustrated as hell with it, because I will. But yeah, it looks amazing, and the style of it is just really nice. Because I think with when you get Souls like now, everyone sort of knows the core pillars, and unless you do something really key with those, it's about the style that then sets it apart. You know what I mean? Because if you do something like Dark Souls, it's already been done by Dark Souls, so you need something like Vampires or Bloodborne or something like that to distinguish them apart. And yeah, it looks amazing.
Did you say vampires?
Yeah.
I'm surprised that vampires haven't become... You know how we had zombies and it was pirates a little bit? But vampire... Yeah. I know we had vampire. I mean, it's called vampire, but it's spelled P-Y-R last year, which actually a lot of people said in terms of its ideas and concept was quite good. But I'm surprised vampires haven't become a trend of video games yet. Like, I think that's something you could do loads with. In fact, has there ever been a good vampire game? I'm going to say this and be wrong straight away. You're going to say something like, oh yeah. But I can't think of one top of my head.
Was there Blood Rain? I remember hearing a lot about that, but I don't think everyone's like, yeah, Blood Rain. I don't remember any.
I knew that. What I was thinking of is the stuff they do in the Elder Scrolls game. There's a really good vampire quest in, I think, both Oblivion and Skyrim.
And in Fallout as well.
Yes. Like but that's not what I want. I want something that's, I guess you could say Castlevania is a vampire game, but and also there hasn't been
Masquerade's Bloodlines to do with vampires? I've never played it, but
I think so. But I think the fact that we're kind of tiptoeing it around like this kind of sums it up. That it's not really what I think we should do. That okay for that reason alone. I swear I looked at this earlier. Let me just type it in to make sure it is the thing that I saw. Yeah, I'm intrigued about it as well, and it looks like a bit of cash has been chucked into it. I mean, the Dark Soulsy thing turns me off, and that is the other name you'll see straight away, like you said too. I think I would just enjoy being a badass vampire, but look, role-playing vampire game ain't too bad, right?
Yeah. It looks really cool, and I mean, I'm not really down for pushing through Souls games anymore, but I'm willing to give it a try if it looks and plays cool.
Yeah, absolutely. There we go, Code Vein. So we'll call that 3, even though it's not many stretch, but I'm going to do it. It's Anthem Miller and Anthem Bishop. My next one is Metro Exodus, which really does tie into I don't really have much interest to play this, but I respect what the developer has done. The other 2 Metro games are absolutely fantastic if you're into, just a franchise that will allow you to feel somewhat comfortable in what video games do when it comes to having a gun and running around shooting, but absolutely creates its own atmosphere. Doesn't really follow the rules you would expect the whole way through the game. Balances horror and I can't think of the right word I'm looking for, but I guess horror and combat really, really well. They're really, really well made video games, and like I say, I've played them both. Never to completion. Sometimes they do go off track in terms of their theme or their tone. Like in the last one, there was a lot of, I guess, like an old man prude. Hey, I didn't like it. There was a lot of odd nudity. Well, I found it uncomfortable. Say what you want. I'm a prude. Cool. I didn't necessarily need that, but I do think, the story they're based on apocalyptic Russia and some of the characters, they're very adult. And I mean, not those bits, but I mean, in terms of the content and the way they sometimes portray stories to you, they're very mature video games. And, a lot of times people think mature video games means that, Marines go fuck and shit. No, it doesn't mean that. To me, one of the most mature video games I played was Spec Ops The Line, because, a lot of the story things that it dealt with were difficult, and you had to process them, and they weren't, airy fairy sweet land. It was real serious stuff. I don't think Metro Exodus goes to that extent, but I think it wants to, and I think that a lot of money has gone into this, a lot of thought. I mean, if you go watch any of the trailers, again, all very well thought out. The production of the game is clearly, pretty good, and it comes out in February, and I really do think that, I'm not saying it's going to find a bigger audience than the last 2 did, but I don't know, there's just something to it. They just feel different. And obviously all games are first-person shooters. Every single one you ever play is the stereotype. But every time you sit down with a Metro one, it never feels the same. And that's why I respect it. And look, I'll give it another go. Maybe it changes a few of its back-end stuff, a few of its gameplay mechanics where I can enjoy it a bit more. But I respect the series massively. And that's why I thought I'd throw it in.
Yeah, that's my number 8.
That's amazing. There we go, we're on the same page.
Yeah, it looks really, really good. I've not played the first 2, but I've always been interested in it. It's always one I've just not got around to. I think I've even got them. I bought them for PS4 because I've got the first 2 in a pack together. But yeah, it looks amazing. Like, I remember that first trailer we got in E3 2017. That looks really good. It's a bit more open ended, a little less claustrophobic. Because sometimes when games are just all dark corridors, it's a little bit like.
Oh, that was one of my problems with it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, it was just so grey and boring sometimes.
Yeah, and opening up a little bit. Hopefully it won't be, the open world fatigue thing where they just pump it full of the stuff that we're all tired of. But yeah, it looks really atmospheric, which is always a great thing. And like you say, the FPSs, but not in your standard sense. They always do something really unique. So yeah, I'm just intrigued to see what they're going to do with it. And it looks like a good jumping in point for new players as well.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with the atmosphere. Something I was thinking about the other day is what I really love from video games are video games that kind of embrace the theming. Not enough games feel themed anymore. Like, I really love a game that starts slow pacing, introduces it to its world, has a unique atmosphere. Like when you go to a theme park, you kind of feel like you're in a different place. And I think the best video games do that. And Metro Exodus, maybe it's kind of old school in that sense, or really, kind of doubles down on that stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the main reason I want to play it. And it's a lot like Anthem. I want all games to do well. I don't understand this. I hope this game is shit. Like, what world do you live in, you crazy people? But I would like this one to surprise me on a personal level too, because I think I could really get into it as long as, like you say, those dull moments and those down moments don't take over as they have done before.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So there we go. So far, we're 2 down, and we're running out of games. So that's good. But hey, it goes to show that if we are in sync without even discussing it, I think that kind of shows we've got our finger on the pulse, right?
And I think it just sort of goes to show, like, when you're looking back, you've got a lot of surprises that you didn't know existed. But looking forwards, because a lot of indie games aren't announced or going under the radar with these big hype trains, it's harder to like get unique games because all of the hype for the game this year are just the big names, right?
Exactly. And hey, look, if we've got the same 10 games, I just call it the best 10 games. Easy, done, sorted.
Yeah, I might be called the best 14 games.
I think you'll have this one as well, mostly because I think it would be on the majority of people's lists, because Trials Rising comes out in 2019, and you mentioned Dark Souls, about games that you kind of play in spite of themselves. And all the Trials games are that for me. I hate them. And they make me want to run through walls. And they make me want to smash people's heads into chairs. And it makes me angry. And they're so finicky. And they're so fiddly. And they're just infuriating. And yet I cannot stop playing them. I think they're... it's like a fine wooden bench that has been crafted. Like when you actually kind of find out the inner workings and... the small little bits that they've painfully put in, how you can manipulate them. They are such good video games. And... they make them look really nice as well. Like I can't remember what the last one was called. Some of the choices to spice up the courses, I wasn't a massive fan of. I kind of like it when they keep it basic and keep it easy. The first Trials to me was... actually, what was the first Trials on the Xbox 360? That was my favourite one. I don't know. It was just...
I can't remember. They all just blur into one now.
Trials HD. Trials HD was the one that it was just basically the first Trials HD, obviously. But that was the one that I really liked. But ever since then, I always keep an eye out for them. I always get a kick out of them. Like it's one of those concepts when, again, so simple, but still hasn't got old. I'm sure eventually in the future that it would, but I haven't got there yet. And yeah, as soon as another February game, as soon as I saw it, I was like, I'll get that. I already know I'll get it, probably on my Switch too. The thought of being able to play that on commutes and just walking around, absolutely everything that I want. A video game that, I won't look forward to, but will absolutely love when it arrives.
Yeah, I've never been a huge fan of Trials because whenever it gets tough, I'm just like, I don't want to persevere.
Exactly, yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah,
but yeah, I guess it's like it's perfect fit for Switch as well. I assume it's coming to Switch.
I mean, they said it has. I mean, I'm surprised if it's not. I mean, you never know with these things; it does change. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely what I get it on. Like, maybe I don't have the interest that I did about sitting in and hammering it, but absolutely, when I'm on a train or a bus or on a plane, especially, like, oh man, I would love to be able to sit there and get mad on a plane. Like, I just would. I think it would be fantastic. So yeah, Trials Rising gets in there. If you played one, you've played it already, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Sometimes you can think outside the box too much, and that ruins an experience. And, there has been some rumours that, well, you never know. Everyone always says, oh, what if they do microtransactions because it's Ubisoft? Well, maybe they do and maybe they don't. I'm not going to worry about that until I know. But in terms of games I'm looking forward to, absolutely Trials Rising is up there for me.
Absolutely.
All right, man, all you.
Yeah, number 9 was Metro Exodus, and then number 8...
we have confused this.
Yeah, and then number 8 was Gears of War 5.
Nice, that's my number 1.
Or Gears 5.
I know, which one is it? It's so dumb.
I think it is Gears 5. I think they called it Gears 5.
Is it just not allowed war in the title anymore then? We just don't like war, do we?
It's more edgy.
That's true. But you go, man, I'll follow you.
Yeah, well, I mean, it seems fairer for you to go since you're the Gears of War man.
Well, I mean, my thing... I'll give my thing quickly. My thing is... it's obviously something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
Because I love Gears of War. It's one of my favourite franchises ever. I think Gears, the first trilogy, I think, is almost untouchable in many ways in terms of how much I enjoyed it. But Gears 4 felt like a Gears too many. I enjoyed it, but I didn't need it. I don't really think it added anything to the Gears verse. Having a new team and not having Delta Squad was a problem. Like the new character they created just weren't as fun or as iconic or whichever word you'd like to use. And I know they are trying to adjust that with Gears 5. Certainly they're trying to shake things up, and there's a new leader and stuff. But my big worry is, can they actually outdo what they've already done? Because if this Gears doesn't, I mean, what they need to do now is I don't believe you're going to be able to get better. At least from a nostalgia point of view, from Marcus Phoenix, Dominic Santiago, Baird, and Cole. I just don't think it's going to happen. But what does need to happen regardless is changing up the mechanics and changing up the gameplay. It needs to feel different. I don't care that it's called Gears 5. But you need to keep the bits that people love, but it needs a shake-up. Like, it's been around... When did the first Gears come out? 2005?
I think it was 2006.
Oh, there we go. Right, so we're talking 12 years, right? Like, which is insane. Like, you have to, at this point, make sure that there's enough... new additions so it doesn't feel old. And I don't think they did that with the last Gears. And if they don't do it with this one, you can probably, stick a fork in me when it comes to Gears. It doesn't mean, you're less of a fan. Not really. It's just not doing what I want it to do.
Yeah, I think I totally agree, because the thing that interests me is that I think Gears of War as a formula felt very like it was stuck in 2007. That cover shooter, chest high walls, that was in trend in the later noughties, but it just doesn't feel very. What was it, 2016 when Gears of War 4 was released? So it felt like more of the same, which was good. But it was just a bit like, yeah, that's more of the same. Yeah, cool. But I think Gears 5, they'd be fools to do that again, because they need, like, Microsoft needs something, and I think Gears needs something different. But it's also going to be a balancing act, because if you change it too much, then it won't feel like Gears, because Gears is those big bulky dudes, even the girls, just slamming into chest high walls and chainsawing the shit out of everything. So it's going to be a really fine balancing act, but I'm really intrigued to see what they're going to do with it.
I'm intrigued, and I kind of understand how they see the multiplayer as almost as big a deal as the single player. And it probably is. There's a huge world out there. There's esports tournament and all that kind of stuff. But that's not enough for me. I want a really good single player campaign. I want a co-op that I can go through with a friend and it'd be really fun and enjoyable. I want to make sure it ties into the old story, but also tells me a new one. I want them to make me care about whatever new universe they're going to come up with. And yeah, I want a shift. That's what I want. And I'm sure there are bigger Gears of War fans than me, but I can still consider myself a big one.
Yeah, I think you're probably the biggest.
Well, we'll wait and see. But I am anticipating it. But yeah, I'm with you as well. There has to be a change. There has to be a shift. And also, it's in general, this year for Microsoft has to be a slam dunk. They in terms of exclusives, they do feel very far behind Sony at the moment. I know we're coming to the end of the console cycle, but stuff like Halo and Gears and maybe Crackdown to a lesser extent, our franchises people associate with that console, and they need to come out guns a blazing. And Gears has got to be the one. It has got to be the one. So yeah. So that was technically yours, and yet I talked all over it. So it makes.
Fair enough.
My next one, oddly, I don't even know this is coming out this year. I looked at a few places. Some people say it probably does, but no one's 100% sure. And that is Sucker Punch's. Can never say it. Ghosts of Tsushima.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Now it may be a 2020 game. It may even be a PS5 game. I mean, again, it is Sucker Punch who will, specifically make that. It would be a PlayStation 4 exclusive. But again, some people said 2019, and I was like, well, I am really intrigued about it, so I throw it in here. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't really care. But we talked about pirates, talked about vampires earlier. Something else I've always wanted to kind of blow up in video games, and I kind of wanted Red Steel to do, was sword play games. Because I just think there is almost like an untapped world. And sometimes in a game, you'll be given a sword, but it's not like it's ever been crafted around the gameplay or the mechanics. And that, from what I can tell, the whole dueling side of it is a massive, or if it's not, then the trailers are lying to me. And it's kind of weird. I think maybe Insomnia have helped me with this a lot, because I never really liked any of Insomnia's games. Then Spider-Man came out. I was like, oh no, I do like this. And it's kind of the same with Sucker Punch. Sly Cooper was never my thing. Infamous was absolutely not my thing. I couldn't get into it at all. But the aesthetic, the way it looks, the visuals, the gameplay, the trailers, everything they've released so far, plus it's got a Japanese setting, and I just think that's cool. I always like Japanese games. Or at least the look of it, the feel of it, sort of the history of that. And yeah, I think it looks cool. It's as simple as that. And again, if you go watch any of the trailers or anything like that, you hopefully get the same kind of vibe that I'm getting. And it could, if it is as good as I want it to be, there's nothing to say that other people won't jump on the sword bandwagon, and that will be the new kind of face of video games for a while. And I'd be all right with that. I think, again, Red Steel still burns me. I just thought that idea was so good with the Wiimote, and we all know the restrictions that the Wiimote had at the end of the day. But yeah, I hope it comes out in 2019. I'd probably say 2020, maybe even on a new console. But at a push, if it does, I think it looks great.
Yeah, and I actually think it looks pretty unremarkable.
I know you do. I think we've talked about this, right?
Yeah, because it was E3. I was just
That's right, yeah.
That trailer was just like, it looks very much like it took a lot of the action out of your hands. All I remember is the scripted sections rather than the guy controlling it. And obviously it's meant to look very smooth with an E3 trailer, but nothing I've seen so far made me go, wow. So yeah, obviously innocent until proven guilty, and optimistic until proven otherwise. But yeah, for me, it's just no buzz at all, really. And I love the Sly of Raccoon games. Not that they have any similarity on the studio.
To me, it's just the swords. It's the swords and the aesthetic. I don't really know anything else. Like, there's nothing else to. But it got me. It's one of those weird things that you didn't. Yeah, you didn't actually think that it. If you told me on paper what it was, but okay. But then I watched it. I was like, oh yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, we'll see. Okay, your next one.
Is it number 7? Oh yeah.
I've lost track because we've just screwed it all up by having the same games.
My number 7 is Resident Evil 2 remake.
Nice. I didn't put that on there because I hoped you would. So that's good. We've got there.
Yeah. It's one that I don't think I'll even complete, if I'm totally honest, because as you know, quite impatient. I like sort of very guided experiences, and I think it's just one of those ones where it's like, oh, where's this obscure key? And then unless it's got an easy mode, I'll probably rock with an easy mode. But it just looks incredible, and like obviously the atmosphere is amazing. Like one of the best looking games I think I've ever seen. I've just got a new 4K TV in the Boxing Day sales, so that's really going to do it justice. And yeah, it's going to be really one of those horror spectacles I think that we had with Resident Evil 7. We don't get a lot of big budget horror games, so I'm very excited.
What I like about it the most is if you've never played Resident Evil 2, you can absolutely just play this. All you need to know is the story. And that's not hard to figure out in this day and age. But everything else looks so well refined and so well remastered or made new, whatever you want to call it. You are actually going to be able to jump back into a game that's, 20 years old? I can't even remember when the first one came out. And it's not going to feel like it. And I think Capcom should be really praised for that. And they get criticised sometimes, oh, you're relying on your catalogue too much. You absolutely should be doing that. Like, A, they're good games. B, I know a lot of people played the first Resident Evil but never played the second one, so now you can rectify that. And it probably, when Resident Evil 8 comes out, you're going to have a bunch of sort of younger people that never played the games liking the franchise again.
Yeah, and if like Resident Evil 1, I think remake did quite good, so it makes sense to do this. And this one's just like so much more oomph behind it, so much more power. And like the lighting, like I've said before, like the lighting is just amazing. Like that's just a lesson on like lighting, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, no, I think so. And it's not on my list, but it's something if I can actually, have the balls to sit down and play. I don't know how scary it would be nowadays, but I imagine scary enough. Or at least I'd imagine that they've ensured that the work they've done on it keeps it scary in 2019, I should say now.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good shout. Next on my list is Luigi's Mansion 3.
Oh, all right.
I just love those stupid games. Anything that you shouldn't even need to say this because I know it's painfully obvious, but anything that's on the Switch and that is made by Nintendo is always going to win me over because A, they rarely get it wrong. B, the fact I can take games that I enjoy on the go, a clear selling point. And I always thought Luigi's Mansion was underrated. The GameCube version was brilliant. Stupid as all hell and very sort of wash, rinse, repeat. And after a couple of hours, you'd seen everything. But it kind of got by on Luigi's personality. Like, you had the ultimate anti-hero in the sense that he was just terrified of everything that he was doing. And you kind of almost had to... it almost wasn't like you were controlling him because he had his own personality, as dumb as that sounds. But it was true. And it's just fun. It's quirky. It will get away with any of those shortcomings on something like the Switch because, again, you're able to just walk around and do whatever you want with it. And again, I don't think Nintendo miss with these kind of games. I mean, again, if you don't like what they set up originally, then sure, you're not going to like it. But the one they did on the 3DS, that was awesome too. I just think it will be fun. Nintendo always release games that are, clearly designed for entertainment. So it's not going to get me too bogged down. It's not going to upset me. It's just going to be nice and simple. Again, I probably already know what this is. Again, it's just something that makes me happy that I've got a Switch. You know what it is already. It's another one of those games, but I'm perfectly fine with that. I can just look forward to it and then run around as Luigi being scared. I'm all right with that. I got no problems with it.
I've never played one of those games, but it's one of those ones that I don't think it's got the biggest fan base, but it's like a cult game, and I'm really glad it's got another. It's really nice to see those games get rewarded and those fans get rewarded with another game.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's almost like they release it for goodwill as opposed to anything else.
Yeah.
And obviously it's got working titles. I don't know what the original one will be, but Nintendo did confirm, I think it was in November last year or at some point, that it will officially be out in 2019. So all we've had so far is, I think it's like a 20-second trailer. It may even be even shorter than that. But honestly, they're fun video games, and I think it's really easy to forget these days that it's all right just to be fun. That's what Nintendo do the best. That's why it goes on my list, and I look forward to playing it.
Yeah. So my number 5 is In the Valley of Gods.
Oh man, do I even know what that is? I probably do, and I've forgotten. But sing it.
You might know. A lot of people are just like, "Oh, isn't that the one that the Firewatch devs are making?"
I think that's how I did know it as. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the one that the Firewatch devs are making, and it's just I assume it will be a walking simulator, for want of a better term. Some people find that offensive. I don't. I like those games.
Yeah, exactly. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just looks really good because it's. I like that setting anyway. Ancient Egypt. You're exploring a tomb. I think it's that sort of rip-roaring yarn of discovery and mystery and stuff like that. It's always Firewatch was really strong and really great storytelling, environmental storytelling. Like visually, it looks great. So yeah, like with the Firewatch stamp on it, it's like almost a stamp seal of quality, if you know what I mean. Like you know that they can deliver. And it's like, yeah, great. I'm really looking forward to this then. It's TBD, so it might not be this year, but it very may well be this year.
How much is it like Firewatch? Because I've not played either of them. I know Firewatch is meant to be great, but I never got around to playing it.
Well, it looks like Firewatch in the sense that you're a first person and you talk to people, except you never saw anyone else because it was only over radio in Firewatch, and here you've got another person with you, like actually in game. So yeah, a lot of talking, a lot of dialogue-driven storytelling. So yeah.
Do you think it's one of those things that you could play back to back? Like you could play Firewatch and then jump into this straight away?
Yeah, I usually get a bit fatigued with walking simulators just because, like, sometimes you just want to like kill stuff. Just like, okay, I've had a very good story and I've walked very slowly for a while, but let's just kill some stuff right now. But yeah, you could definitely play it back to back because Firewatch isn't the longest game, and I can't imagine this is going to be like a real long blockbuster either.
I like that though. I like that it's short. It makes me more wanting to play. I'm looking at it now. The imagery is great. Like all the Egypt stuff is. Oh man, yeah, it looks. Because it's kind of got that point and click feel from back in the 90s.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, yeah, man. In terms of visually, it looks much better than. Well, no, in terms of my own personal taste, more interesting than Overwatch. Oh man, that looks great. All right, cool. That's on my list now. I look forward to it. Well, not my actual list. My next game continues pretty much everything I said a minute ago at Nintendo. Again, we don't know if it is 2019, but Metroid Prime 4. I would imagine. I think they probably would do it this year because Nintendo like to release a lot of. Their games, for lack of a better term, sort of in the same year. Like if you actually think how many games we got in the first 2 years of the Switch's life is loads. So I don't think they would hold off Metroid Prime 4 just because they have a Luigi's Mansion or something coming out in the same year. And you know, for me, it is. If we also get the Metroid Prime 1 to 3 remakes,
that would be so good.
Yeah, that would be cool as well. Again, especially on the Switch. But I think it's just. Metroid Prime has been away for so long, and Metroid Prime 3 was okay, but it didn't have the same impact as the first two. And there is an opportunity here for Nintendo to have... I mean, I don't consider Metroid Prime games a first-person shooter, but they look that way. And that is one thing that they do lack if you're looking at console and games that you need on there. They've got Splatoon, but, Metroid Prime has the ability to be there. So I'm hoping... We've kind of gone back to the drawing board a little bit. We've kind of remembered why the first two games were so good. We introduced some new ideas, blah, 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 all the same kind of stuff. And... it does feel like, okay, I'm playing a first-person, whatever, adventure game shooter on my Switch, but it's got all the originality I expect from a Nintendo game. Again, on the Switch, that's making, just it more fun because of the novelty there.
Yeah.
And I don't know anything about it. Like, we've seen a logo. That's it. I imagine there is some, some news on the way. When that will be, I don't know. Someone, I think it is 2009 because somebody at one point said it was meant to be fall 2018. I don't know who came up with that one. That's probably just the internet going into overdrive. But it's one of those games that when it does get released and I know more and I see the trailers, it's probably going to go on my list of things that I want to buy for my Switch. I mean, even though I don't know what kind of shape it's going to take, I hope that Nintendo kind of has a bigger hand in it than they did the last one, because they kind of shifted that one out. But I'm excited about it. When I was going through the list of games and doing all my research for this, it kept coming up and I was like, you know what? I want to know, so it's going to go on there.
Yeah, that's another game where it's just like I'm not a Metroid fan, but I'm really glad that the Metroid fans are getting something now.
Yeah, and
because they've been waiting a long time.
If we could just have an F-Zero game, Nintendo would have ticked every box.
Yeah,
but as of yet, I don't think we're getting an F-Zero game ever again. So just go and play your SNES Mini if you want that one. So yeah, I'm in there. Metroid Prime 4. That would be my number 4. There we go. It ties in.
Yeah, and my number 4 is Control.
Which one is that? Do I know this?
It's the new Remedy one. It snuck in there at Sony's E3.
I don't know if I do remember this. Sell it to me.
Well, I don't actually know much about what it's about because I think they're being very vague because I think they're just sort of showing conceptual trailers right now. Like I think you play as one of the members of this government body to investigate supernatural goings on. And I don't think there's been any gameplay. It's been very vague, but obviously Remedy, they're really good. So that was like tick, and that was like supernatural tick. And then one of the recent trailers, there was just like corpses floating around, and there's some anti-gravity stuff going on, and it's all like red and ominous. And I'm like, this is good. This looks like Alan Wakey, Max Payne-y. I've not played Quantum Break, so I don't know. But yeah, it looks really good, and it's just a case of knowing more about it. It was one of those games I want to be excited, but I don't know what to be excited about.
I have found a gameplay demo. I have it running now as you were talking.
Nice.
And the best thing about it, as you were talking, you described it perfectly. Like the things you were saying, I'm like, yeah, he's right. I can see it now. It does look interesting. And obviously it's kind of cool as well because is it a PS4 exclusive or is it just the first time Remedy's done a game for the PlayStation?
That is a very good question.
But either way, it's a story though, because they've obviously been synonymous with Microsoft for ages, right? So that's cool either way. Hang on, let me see if I can find it just quickly, because I do think that makes it interesting. Yes, it's coming out on the Xbox and the PlayStation 4, so that is interesting. So it's the first game, as you said, on the PlayStation, but not exclusive. It does look like what they're known for, but again, everything you said with the supernatural stuff, at the moment I'm watching a woman kind of go through some offices, there's people floating up in the ceiling and stuff like.
Yeah, I think we're watching the same thing.
Yeah, unsettling. And I think that's what they do so well. I mean, that's what Alan Wake was based on entirely, wasn't it? Just this unsettling nature.
Yeah.
So no, yeah, I don't know how I missed this entirely. It's probably one of those games that I heard about and then swiftly forgot because too many games get announced and trying to keep up. For me, the
shame for me is that it was at Sony's E3 conference, which was like packed with other stuff. It sort of snuck in there, like controlled by Remedy. And then there was Spider-Man and Last of Us 2 and Ghost of Tsushima and everything. So that was a shame.
Yeah, no, I mean it must have been buried a little bit because I don't remember it at all. But look, it looks interesting. Do you know when it's out? Or you said it may not be this year.
I don't. I assume it'd be this year. I'm always assuming if anything's coming out, it'll be this year.
Yeah, it's down for 2019. I mean, it's there. It's published by 505 Games as well. I mean, that is an interesting take given what we're used to.
Yeah.
All right, well, there we go. I mean, I'm learning every day. I imagine my number 3... actually, which way I'm going to change it? I'm going to change my order. My number 3 may be on yours. We don't know anything about it apart from the basics, but Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Now,
it's not on mine.
Okay, cool. There we go. That's good. But the reason I'm intrigued about it because A, it's done by the Titanfall guys, and I think while Titanfall wasn't necessarily, my bag, it's such a good developer. Like Respawn are really good at what they do, and we need a good Star Wars game. Like Battlefront 2 was obviously, we all know the story of Battlefront 2. We're not going to go through it. We're not going to go through it again. I just need to know what this is going to be because I think at this stage. You want a game that's not focused on multiplayer. As it's Respawn, you have to imagine it's a first-person shooter, but not necessarily. But I want some kind of, just like a proper Star Wars game where I can jump into that universe and get more than just, 10-minute matches where you're, trying to become top of the leaderboard. That's great, and I love the Battlefront games to a certain degree. I do think the last one had problems, which have all been discussed. But, I want that idea of the dark side and the light side, and I want good characterization, and I want stuff, I want lightsabers. And even if it is a first-person shooter, I want to be able to use a lightsaber in a good way. And the fact they're being so quiet on it is a bit worrying if it is coming out this year. But by the same token, if they release too much, I would probably have been sick of it by now because we've talked about that before. There's too much marketing in 2018.
I think Star Wars is one of those fan bases. If you release anything, they're like, actually, I think you'll find, and then you'll just get everyone just being like, that's not correct. And so I think you just want to leave that fan base just a bit less stirred up.
You're 100% correct. And it will probably come out in November 2019 because that's EA's window set before episodes 3 and 4, I believe, if I'm making that right. And yeah, look, it's, to me, EA can't make another mistake when it comes to Star Wars. Disney as an entity these days is ridiculous, even more so than they've been before. I imagine a trailer or something will probably leak out, well, not leak out, but we release it in the next couple of weeks. And I'm just intrigued about it. I think because it has to be a home run and because who's involved and because what the licensing is, I think it will be. And While what I really want is a proper RPG like BioWare used to do, which I think we'll get at some point. I don't think it's going to be from Respawn because that's not what they do. However, I'm looking forward to it. They keep using the word Dark Times. That usually makes me excited. I get to be a Jedi. It goes on my list. I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah.
That's that. You.
My number 3 is Anthem. So.
Of course, of course it was. You can go ahead then. What's your number 2?
Number 2 is Close to the Sun.
I don't even know what that is, Sam. You've trumped me there.
Well, Close to the Sun. I wasn't intrigued until someone said it was like BioShock on a boat. And I was like, cool. Right, let's go. I looked up a video of it. And it's like you're I think a journalist looking for your sister on a boat run by Nikola Tesla that's just sort of floating about. And it's all dark and spirit. You know the BioShock. Basically, if you watch the trailer, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh my gosh, I've just seen the first 2 seconds. The most BioShocky thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, and like that's pretty much all I've got to say. Like that, I'm down. Cool. Right, you got me.
I like the idea that they just went BioShock on a boat and somebody went, yeah, that sounds good.
I'm down with that. It's one of those things like, oh, but you're just using BioShock, and I'm like, yeah, do that.
We've said that before. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're inspired by something and you think you can do your own take on it, do it. And like you're living proof, right? You like it because you're like, okay, this looks good.
And it's not underwater; it's on water. So
who makes this?
Storm in a Teacup. It's a little Italian studio.
Oh, they are actually called that as well. I thought that was just some weird, I don't even know, tagline or something, because obviously that's I don't know what I mean. I like the look of it. It also looks terrifying, which kind of puts me off. Is it a PC only game, or is it coming out and everything?
I don't know what it's coming out on, actually. I pretty much just ran away with that idea that it was BioShock, and I was like, cool, right, I'm looking forward to that.
No, that's
fair. I mean, anymore.
That even the game, the title font looks like BioShock.
Yeah.
And it's won a lot of best. I mean, the fact it's just an indie game. It won a lot of best indie game awards. Kind of leads me to believe it's just going to be a PC game. I want to figure this out. Apparently it's coming out in March as well, so you don't even have to wait that long.
Yeah.
What's it out on? This is the only problem with video games these days. It never tells you what it's out on, probably intentionally. So you have to
lead them to. I think it's just to lead them wiggle room to get some more negotiations or cut some deals.
I can't figure out what it's on, but look, it's exactly what Sam says. It's very BioShocky, very cool. And it is coming out on PS4, Xbox One, and PC in Q1 2019. Again, any article you say looks like BioShock, and a lot of the sort of imagery we're watching now is almost from a year ago or 6 months ago. Yeah. So you have to imagine they would have done a lot more. Do we know what else Storm in a Teacup have done? Do they have?
I do know what it's called, but I don't know what it's called. Storm in a Teacup. I'm gonna really hit myself.
Lantern. Is it that one? Nero, Enki. I've never heard of any of these games. Lantern looks like something you would play. No, it doesn't at all. I've just clicked it through. It doesn't at all.
I think it's called Child of Light.
Did they do Child of Light?
I think it's what? Unless I'm thinking of. No, they didn't. That's just totally wrong.
It's all good.
Yeah, who did Child of Light? This is not relevant.
That's what we do, man. We get into the nitty gritty. I also they've done a game called Nero, and it stands for Nothing Ever Remains Obscure. I like that. That's ridiculous.
Also, Child of Light isn't even the right game that I'm thinking of. I don't know what I'm talking about.
It's all good, man. It's all. So that's your number 2. So we haven't done your number 1 yet, right?
No.
Okay. Well, I will. Why we may be the same. I don't think this will be on your list. My number 2 is Mortal Kombat 11.
No, definitely not on my list.
No, I didn't think it would be. I'm not a big fighting game fan. I like Street Fighter and I like Mortal Kombat. I think Mortal Kombat, it's not the deepest fighting game. It can be the deepest fighting game in the world if you want to learn it. But that's why I like it. It's also incredibly accessible. It's got stupid characters. Scorpion is it's still fun to use to this day. Ed Boon knows what he's doing. Obviously, there was some, problematic years in between where they weren't 100% sure what they wanted to do with it. But they came back with, obviously, Mortal Kombat, as it was called, without a name on it, and then they went back to the numbers for some reason. Mortal Kombat X was great, and it all kind of started with DC Universe versus Mortal Kombat, which again wasn't a great fighting game, but it kind of, I think, reminded everybody involved with NetherRealm what they wanted to do. You always get a dumb story, you always get a pretty well made game. Like the production values on those things and the complete package is pretty solid. And I just look forward to it, and I like the fact they announced it only recently, and it's out soon too. Like I'm a big fan of that as well.
Yeah, I'm not a Mortal Kombat fan, so I've not got much attachment. But this might be the right time to jump in, right? So
I think it can be. I think those games. I didn't like the trailer. I thought the music over the top of it was. I like the trailer itself, but the music didn't work. And had Raiden and Scorpion just fighting it out. And obviously the X-ray system comes back. They're just stupid, over-the-top fighting games made by a bunch of people that just want to have fun. And I really do think that comes across. I mean, like I say, big fan of them. Look forward to playing this one. I have loads of fun with it. I'll play the story mode. That's what they do really well. You know, the guys there really were responsible for, you know, putting story modes in fighting games and realizing it could be done. And they did brilliantly. Like, they really, really did. It never makes any sense, the story, but it's still a lot of fun to play. So, you know, I look forward to playing it out in a couple of months. And, it's on my list, clearly, number 2.
Yeah, certainly it's just my number 1 then, because I'd stole your number 1.
In that case, I haven't done I've got one more. Did I put 11 on my list? Maybe I had 11.
Maybe, because your number 1 was Gears 5, was it not?
It was, or maybe I've missed one. I don't know. Either way, I've got one left. I don't know how I screwed that up. But it could be the one you're about to say anyway, Sam. We'll find out.
Okay, well, I'm going to say Outer Worlds.
Oh, no, you're not. And that's not... Okay, I think I've screwed up my list. What is Outer Worlds?
That's the Obsidian one that's basically Fallout.
Of course it is. No wonder you like it.
Yeah, so again, like the Bioshock one, it's just like, okay, cool, this is the Fallout New Vegas guys on their own, doing some cool stuff. Sweet. I've seen, like, because I can't remember who it was. They played a little bit of it and did a sort of walkthrough and a talk through. A lot of it is like, okay, right, fine, whatever. And this isn't like post-apocalyptic. It's a bit more sci-fi. It looks a bit Borderlands-y because it's a bit wacky and bizarre. But I mean, Obsidian know what they're doing. It's one of those ones. A lot of times we said on this list where it's like, I trust that developer, so I'm excited for it no matter what they're doing, really. And this is one of those instances. I love Fallout New Vegas. So, and a lot of, like, if you look at the screenshots on Steam, even, it looks like the dialogue system in Fallout New Vegas. Like, yeah, just give me more of that. So,
no, I think you hit the nail on the head with the trust in the developer, right? Because, you know, given what we do, it's the same with reviewing, right? That's how you should approach reviews. You trust the people you read. And it's the same with stuff like that, because you know their content and they have never let you down. You're obviously going to get more excited about this.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this. And it's just like, you don't get a lot of sort of first-person RPGs like Fallout these days. It sort of seems like Bethesda took that and owned it for ages. And then, this is sort of like the Bethesda that's not Bethesda, if you know what I mean. A lot of people are saying, like, they're taking Fallout away from Fallout. But I don't think it's going to be a Fallout game, because if you look at it, it's a bit more sci-fi rather than post-apocalyptic. But yeah, I'm really, really excited for this one.
I think that's good though. Like, you know, you can get fatigue with Bethesda games. I think if they can take all that stuff and make it their own, that's absolutely what it should be.
Yeah, and a lot of people are going to be looking elsewhere after Fallout 76, right? So, exactly. Yeah, a lot of people were definitely like, this is the best time to announce this. I think it was for them. Like, a lot of people were just like, the Fallout 76, I'm washing my hands of this. And then Outer Worlds came along to, I don't know, get them all excited again.
Yeah, no, it's true. There we go. So I don't know how many I had on my list now. I've been deleting them as I go.
Let's just drop them here.
wait, can I get them all back just to make sure? Have I screwed this now? I think I've screwed. I've really screwed it up. If I do that, and I just want to make sure. I swear I counted 10. There we go. You do that again. Give it to me. I've done this completely wrong. Anyway, my number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I do have 10. Who knows what I did? Anyway, Doom Eternal comes out in 2019. That's my most anticipated game of the year. I mean, the more I think about that revamp of Doom from 2000, was it 16 it came out? Yeah, it must have been. Just one of my favourite first-person shooters ever. So much fun. Doesn't give a crap. Doesn't hold back. It doesn't look like Bethesda planned to do anything different. Just give you more of the same, but because it's different in terms of levels, you don't mind. It's just, again, you mentioned faith in developers. And I have utter faith that they will make this work. I think they're brilliant. I love what they do. I look forward to playing it. It will make me laugh. I'll probably roll my eyes over and over again in a good way, because it's so over the top and so brilliant. And, you know, they based the whole game before on, you know, the idea. It was like a rhythm action game in the sense that you just, you know, you shot someone, you went in and did one of the, I can't remember what the name of that attack was now, but the melee attack.
The brutal attack.
And you did that again, and you did it 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 again. It never got old. All they got to do is come up with a couple more things like that. I'll absolutely love it. Easily my most anticipated game of the year, and probably one, if someone said, Simon, you could only pick a few, I just go, I'll take that. Don't worry about anything else. It's all good.
Yeah, and I love how at E3 they were just like, yeah, we just made it bigger and better and more violence. And everyone's like, yeah, great, cool.
Yeah, that sounds all right to me. So, yeah, that's my number one. And, yeah, that's it. That's all the games from 2019. I don't
missed some glaring ones.
I'm sure we have, but that's what comments and Twitter is all about. Make sure you get in touch and let us know. And I'm sure there's some under the radar ones. I'm sure some people are excited about Destiny 2. What's wrong with you? But we can't help that. Like you got to do what you can. Obviously, we haven't talked about, I don't know, Assassin's Creed 2019 or Call of Duty 2019.
Yeah, the speculative ones, yeah.
Yeah, who knows? Also, I mean, I wouldn't have put Death Stranding on there anyway, but I don't even know when that's coming out. I don't believe it will ever come out. So I'm not going to put that on there anyway. But yes, look, do get in touch and let Sam and I know what your most anticipated games are. You can get me on Twitter at Simon316. Sam is at Sam Bishop, so you give it 3p and you put a 1 on there. It's on YouTube at youtube.com/The Rules. You can leave a comment and let us know. Yeah, just let us know and we can address it. Hopefully, we'll know that will be by next week. We'll have a much better sort of idea of where we're at with the year and we can start jumping back into stuff. When does the first big game come out? Is it Resident Evil in a couple of weeks?
Yes, I think. And then a few days after that is Kingdom Hearts.
Yes. Sorry. And then what are we going to do about that? I don't play Kingdom Hearts. Do you?
I don't play Kingdom Hearts.
Well maybe we'll...
And it's too late to get into that story.
Oh, man, yeah.
I'd read a recap of it and I was still like, what? What?
Maybe we may have to get a third party on for that, just to talk about it, and we'll sit there and go, "Yep, yeah, that's good, great." But yeah, do definitely let us know what your games you're most looking forward to are this year, and opposed as well as that. That's pretty much it. That's over. All this was supported by Patreon.com/Simon316. Head over there, give $1 if you can. It all helps. Make sure you check out my wrestling podcast, my YouTube channel, anything else. Sam, anything you want to pimp, or you all good?
No, I'm all good. Just Outer Worlds. Everyone go look at the Outer Worlds. It was great.
Free trailer on YouTube. It will take you no time. Thank you very much for listening. Again, if you want to share us around, please do. It's always nice. And we'll talk to you again next week.